I've been using my LG Ultrafine 5K display since it launched over 4 years ago, and overall I've been extremely happy with it, but it does have a few missing features that I really wanted. Thankfully, after so many years of people complaining, Apple finally made another display, the 6K Pro Display XDR. So today, I'll be doing a detailed comparison of these high-resolution displays, helping you decide which one is better for your needs, because once you get all the info, it's actually a pretty easy choice. Now you might expect me to tell you that if you have the money, then just buy the XDR, and if not, then get the LG 5K, but that's not true at all. There are actually 3 specific areas that the LG Ultrafine 5K display beats out the Pro Display XDR, and no, that doesn't include the massive price difference or the included stand, but I'll touch on that anyways. The LG 5K comes in at $1,300 compared to $5,000 or $6,000 for the XDR, so the price difference is massive, and that's without the stand. You can actually buy a refurbished LG 5K for $100 less than the Pro stand by itself, so if you want to score a great deal, I'll go ahead and leave a link to that down in the video description. Now as far as the build quality of the stands themselves, there is no comparison. The Pro stand by itself gets close to the full weight of the LG 5K, and it is extremely stable. The LG stand is mostly made out of plastic with a solid metal base, but that's still not enough to keep it from wobbling. Both stands have a fairly similar amount of adjustability, but only the Pro stand can go vertical. The Pro stand is easier to adjust, but it does have a downside. The distance from the wall will change while you're adjusting it, so if you have a small desk, it could end up feeling a bit too close to you. The Pro stand attaches instantly using ultra strong magnets, whereas the LG 5K uses a mechanical spring lock, which is also very quick to attach compared to other monitors. Beneath the locking plate, the LG 5K hides a VESA mount if you want to ditch the wobbly stand completely, but on the Pro Display XDR, you have to buy a $200 VESA mount adapter separately. Another thing we see on the LG 5K is a tiny fan that helps keep the display cool, whereas the XDR is fanless thanks to its unique passive cooling design that's built into the aluminum frame. The LG 5K also has a lock built in, which you don't get on the XDR. They both have one Thunderbolt 3 input and 3 USB Type-C ports offering USB 3.0 connections. However, there is a caveat with the Pro Display XDR. The ports on the back of the LG 5K display support those speeds using any Mac, so our external SSD can run close to 400 megabytes a second. However, with the XDR, it has to be plugged into a Mac with AMD's latest Navi-based graphics, like the 16-inch MacBook Pro. Any Mac without Navi graphics, like the 15-inch MacBook Pro, or even the brand new Mac Pro with the $2,400 Vega 2 graphics option, doesn't support the latest display stream compression technology, so running the 6K Display XDR uses up all of the available bandwidth, leaving none of it left over for the USB ports on the back of the display. So those ports end up running at USB 2.0 speeds, which means we get about 40 megabytes per second speeds even with our super fast SSD, basically making the ports useless for anything other than basic accessories. When we plug this SSD into the Mac Pro itself, we can get speeds of about 800 megabytes per second instead of 40. Fortunately, Apple will soon be selling the Navi-based W5700X graphics card for the Mac Pro, which will allow those ports to run at the full USB 3.0 speeds. Now before I tell you 2 other areas where the XDR lacks, I want to say thanks to our sponsor Micro Center for making our Pro XDR content possible. Micro Center has 25 stores nationwide with an impressive variety of electronics, from gaming, VR, computer parts like processors, graphics, and everything else needed to build or upgrade a PC or Mac. Micro Center has been an Apple authorized dealer since 1980. They have a dedicated Apple department with highly trained Apple sales associates. Aside from the iPhone, Micro Center carries the full lineup of Apple products, and they have the largest selection of third-party products made for Mac and iPad. Come into a local Micro Center today and talk to one of their Apple experts to order the specific Mac Pro that fits your needs or a Pro Display XDR. You can also check the link in the video description to find a location near you or to browse all of Micro Center's Apple products. Before I get into how amazing the Pro XDR's panel is, I want to talk about the build quality differences. The LG uses average quality plastic all around compared to an all aluminum design that looks and feels very premium. The lattice pattern cutouts allow for not only better airflow, but it reduces weight while retaining strength. On the front side, the entire panel is glass, with bezels that are impressively thin for the size of the display, especially when you compare it to the 5K LG display, which has a large plastic protruding frame all the way around. One nice thing about the Ultrafine 5K is that it comes with a microphone and a 1080p webcam hidden in the bezel, and it actually looks quite decent. The Pro Display XDR completely lacks a webcam, but Apple does sell a 4K Pro magnetic webcam for $200 on their website, but it is currently sold out and backordered for about 2 months, so it shows how much people actually care about having a webcam with their display. To me, this isn't a big deal, but what I do care about are speakers. The LG 5K comes with built-in speakers, which don't sound the best, but they do get quite loud, and I would use them for basic tasks, and then when I needed some really good quality sound, I would switch to good headphones. Since the XDR doesn't come with built-in speakers, you have to buy external ones. I got these ones here, which sound way better than the built-in LGs, which of course that makes sense, and I'll just go ahead and link those for you guys down in the video description if you're interested. Now let's get into what makes this display worth that $6,000 price tag, the image quality. And I would actually argue way more than $6,000. Yes, it is 6K, meaning it has just over 20 million pixels, whereas the LG 5K has a little bit under 15 million. Now that may sound like you're getting a lot more detail, but since the display itself is a larger 32 inches compared to 27 inches, you're still getting the same 218 pixels per inch, which Apple considers Retina quality. Both look extremely good, and at normal viewing distances you can't see the pixels, unlike a 4K display that's about as large as these two. The LG 5K display can output a really solid 500 nits of brightness, but it's not enough for Apple to consider HDR capable, even though a lot of other brands market their displays as supporting HDR, which some of them actually have brightness as low as 350 nits. The Pro Display XDR, on the other hand, can sustain a massive 1000 nits of brightness across the entire display at the same time, and up to a shocking 1600 nits in certain areas of the screen when working with HDR content. However, when you're not viewing or working with HDR, both the LG 5K and the Pro Display XDR will max out at around 500 nits, since you don't really need the extra brightness. This is one area I wish Apple gave us more room to play with on the XDR display. Both displays have some brightness shift when viewing at extreme angles, and there also is some color shift, but the LG 5K is much worse, as you can see by the white balance, while the XDR stays very similar. Reflectivity is fairly similar unless you buy the nano-coated XDR for $1,000 more, which pretty much eliminates reflections while maintaining colors and sharpness, which is an amazing achievement by Apple. One absolutely huge and massive difference is contrast. The LG's contrast looks good in bright rooms, just like the 5K iMac and MacBooks, but the XDR puts it to shame. If you care about sustained brightness, the very best OLEDs get dramatically dimmer, and most can only output about 300 nits with half of the display at full brightness, and even less than that for the full screen, whereas the XDR can sustain the full screen at 1000 nits. Those displays are totally fine for watching HDR content, since a lot of the time you won't have the full screen brightness set that high, but when you're editing HDR, that is a huge limitation. LCDs like the LG 5K don't have that issue, but they really lack contrast, so instead of the one backlight that's in the LG 5K, Apple has created a massive 576 backlights to get the very best of both worlds. There is one downside with the XDR compared to OLED, and that is blooming, but it is only visible in extreme, unrealistic scenarios like here, where I really just maxed out the brightness in a totally dark room, and I found text which was ultra bright with, black in between the letters, and then here you notice that it starts turning gray, but if we take a look at the LG 5K, the whole display is basically gray. If you turn the brightness down a bit, it does go away, and in rooms like this, you would never have it above maybe 25 or 30% brightness. If you want the ability to accurately edit HDR, which is the main reason we bought our display, you have to go with the XDR. The other reason for it is color accuracy. Both the 5K and the XDR come standard with DCI-P3 color accuracy, but the Pro Display comes factory calibrated with a full set of reference modes, so you can work in the color space space you need, which is great for high-end pro work. On top of that, the XDR is a true 10-bit color display, meaning it could display over 1 billion colors instead of 16.8 million on the LG 5K, which is truly an 8-bit panel. If you're somebody that needs to edit HDR content or have a true 10-bit display with reference modes, then the XDR is the choice for you. For most people though, the XDR is overkill, and the LG 5K is just as sharp with good color accuracy and brightness. Yes, it does lack HDR, but most people don't need that in a display, and although the contrast isn't as jaw-dropping, in normal lighting conditions, it does look just as good as other iMacs and MacBook Pros. You also have the conveniences of the built-in speakers, the mic, the webcam, all for a fraction of the price. Of course, if you have the money and you want the very best display that you can get for your Mac, one that supports HDR with amazing colors and contrast, then, look into getting an XDR display. It is absolutely amazing, especially when you see it in person. Alright guys, let me know if you have any questions or comments down below, and go ahead and click up there on the circle if you guys want to see our detailed review of this XDR display with a lot more info. This has been Max, and I'll see you in the next video.